Well, a very good afternoon. Welcome to our Vendée Globe live in English. It's day 23 on the racecourse. It's Wednesday, the 2nd of December. And the news just in this morning was from Sébastien Simon on Arkea Paprec. He's damaged the starboard foil quite badly and the casing. He's taking in some water and that is a situation which is evolving all the time. He's stabilised the boat and he has it on a heel just to reduce the intake just now. But I say that situation is evolving. Meantime, 3 boats crossed the Cape of Good Hope today, and at least probably 3 more, maybe 4. We don't recall a round-the-world race with a fleet as compact passing the Cape of Good Hope pretty much at the same time. Meantime, Charlie Dallin is still out in front. Well, we spoke to him on the phone earlier on in the day. Quite an interesting insight into a situation with him in the Indian Ocean. Meantime, Louis Burton's going well. Pretty complicated and difficult weather for him. He's certainly taken the most difficult route, but he is profiting from that. Let's have a quick look then at the standings at midday today. Well, Charlie Dallin, as I said, still out in front. He's 244 miles ahead of Thomas Rion. Louis Burton is only about 8 miles behind in terms of distance to finish. Obviously, quite substantial difference in terms of separation. But Louis Burton is third. Sébastien Simon, well, he was going well in the early part of the day, but he has his problems just now. But he is fourth. Boris Herrmann up in fifth. He's going well as Boris. Damien Seguin is in sixth. Jean Le Cam in seventh. Yannick Besthaven in eighth. Benjamin Dutroux still going well and comfortably inside the top 10. Giancarlo Podotti in 10th. He's only 25 miles ahead of Sam Davies. And Sam in turn is only 19 miles ahead of Isabelle Josch, who has done a really good job catching up with Sam. Then further down the fleet, looking at Alan Rura in 17th. He's got quite a big gap back to Stefan Lederaison and quite a big gap forward to Clarice Kramer. So he's a little bit out on his own just now as Alan. Then of our internationals, Didac Costa is in 22nd. He is only 19 miles ahead of Pip here. They really have gone pretty much a match race all the way around so far. Then further down the table, Miranda Meron has Kojiro Shiraishi between her and Ari Hosela. Koji doing 13.2 knots and starting to find some pace. Further down the table, Jeremy Bayou is still catching Sébastien Destremo. He did 358 miles in the last 24 hours compared to Destromo's 259. So Bayou catching up. We're joined today by Jack Bouttell, a Volvo Ocean Race winner with Dongfeng and quite good friends with Kevin Escoffier. So Jack, what was it like for you over that period when Kevin was in the life raft and we were concerned about him?
Yeah, I mean, it all happened pretty quickly, and I think you know, at the beginning, it all sort of, you know, you're obviously pretty worried when a Mayday calls goes out, but you know, the news straight after that was that John Le Cam was very close to him, and John had actually had visual contact. So, you know, for me, it was sort of a sigh of relief almost pretty early on. But then, you know, after that, there was no more news, and sort of every 2 hours there was another boat getting diverted to his position, and you know, sort of, I think it was around 11 o'clock when Seb Simon got diverted to his position as well, and you know, then you're going into the night, and it all starts getting a bit worrying. And we actually still have a WhatsApp group with all the Dongfeng race team members on it, and I can tell you that thing was pretty active, and there wasn't many people sleeping.
But it was a little bit of mutual support there, was there?
Yeah, for sure. I think everyone was in it, and you know, it's hard to manage these things because you know, it's very little news. There's not much updates, and you just have to hope for the best. And you know, watching, you know, obviously, luckily everything turned out well. And I watched Kevin's interview, and I think the biggest thing that struck me was his mental approach and how he explained it afterwards. That you know, when he went into the life raft, he was basically ready to be in the raft for 24 hours. And, you know, when he got out, he's like, oh, I'm out earlier. And I think, you know, that mental strength and to approach something as difficult in that way is pretty important in those sort of situations. And I think luckily it was obviously a horrible situation, but I think looking across the whole fleet, I know Kevin very, very well and sat around the web with him and had some pretty major experiences and difficult situations. And I think he was probably, in my eyes, the best person to deal with that situation well. And then obviously Jean Le Cam to pick him up was probably the other best person to deal with it as well. So in good hands at the end of the day, but luckily everything turned out well.
Indeed, we can see that the fleet has been very kind of emotionally affected. We saw everybody pretty much taking stock for a while, but they seem to have picked up pace now.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I can relate to that is the Southern Ocean leg in the last Volvo Ocean Race, where John Fisher was lost overboard, and obviously I wasn't on Scallywag, I wasn't with that team, but it hits you very, very hard mentally, because you're basically in the same situation, you're dealing with the same things, and all the guys and girls out there are in the same place. They're all sailing single-handed. They're all in some of the most remote parts of the world in a 60-foot carbon fiber skiff at the end of the day. So it's pretty hard to deal with, and to a certain degree, it gets into your head, and you have to basically cancel it out almost instantly. You can't dwell on it, because otherwise you'll, especially single-handed, because you'll drive yourself insane, and you won't be able to do it anymore. You'd have to stop. So I think a lot of it is family support, friends support, and really the adrenaline of the race, the adventure, and basically the job at hand that at the end of the day takes your mind off it and helps you get through the situation.
Indeed. Let's have a look at our first internet question, if you don't mind, and see what we have. So there's a question here. You can answer this one, I'm quite sure, but if not, do the participants have to pass through gates or checkpoints during the Vendée Globe? And I think this one's fairly simple for you, Jack.
No, they just have to effectively pass the 3 capes, but it's pretty hard to avoid that. We're sailing around the world, so they're limited as how far south they can go. There's an ice limit, so basically there's an imaginary line effectively, which they have as GPS waypoints, where they can't pass further south than that. I think it was yesterday or the day before, that line got adjusted just slightly further to the east, because they found some new ice, but otherwise it's pretty open.
Indeed. I'll come back to you in just a second, Jack. We spoke with Clarice Kramer earlier on in the day. She was affected initially, but she seemed to have a big smile back in her face. And as Jack was just saying, you really have to keep going, keep the work rate up, and get the adrenaline starts to flow again. And this was Clarice on Bank Popular today.
Yes, right now outside it really looks like the Southern Ocean, and it's very different than to what we've been doing only like a week ago. The sky is really grey, there is a lot of waves, the sea is a bit weird because the waves are not really clean and tidy. It's not very easy to sail in these conditions, because the wind goes from around 15 knots to 25 knots, so it's really hard to know how to tame your sails. I'm being quite cautious in these conditions. I have 2 reefs in my mainsail, the small gennaker in front, and I'm trying to go fast, because I don't want to be eaten by the low winds that are growing just behind me. So I'm trying to go straight east to flee a little bit this bad weather situation. Well, it's not really bad weather, but I don't want to be eaten by the low winds. But at the same time, I'm being very cautious. So I'm always, my boat is not always very fast, because I'm very, yesterday I took a second reef because I just wanted to be sure during the night everything was going to be okay. And but everything is fine. I'm starting to feel at home on my boat, which is a nice feeling. And what did you talk about? About Kevin and what happened. It's true that I think all the keepers were really moved and touched by what happened. It was not a nice night that we all spent because we were very worried for him, and it's a weird situation to live when you're alone on a boat in this kind of seas, to have a friend being rescued and to not know what is going to happen to him. It was a hard time to live. So we were very relieved yesterday when we learned that he was saved, and when I received the email from the race direction, I was really relieved, and I even cried of joy. I was very, very happy for him, and it's a nice. In the end, we have a nice story to tell. But it was a very hard time, and I think as far as I'm concerned, it really gives me the impression that I'm making the right choices by being a bit cautious, because the Vendée Globe is not just a regatta; it's really a whole adventure, and many things can happen. So I want to be careful.
Well, there you go, Clarice Kramer. Jack, Clarice Kramer really, you know, when we consider where she started out and she was very prudent going round Theta, she looks totally at home now.
Yeah, I think watching Clarice's progress over the last couple of years has been pretty incredible. You know, it was only a couple of years ago she did the Mini Transat and then did the Figaro, and then now she's got an Amoca project. And I think there's no real better project to be asked to be involved with than the Banque Populaire project. You know, there's so much experience in the team and so much sort of backing and help and you know everything she's had to get her you know in the right place and to be ready for this challenge. But you know, I think Clarice is, you know, for me, sailing a really, really good race. I think she's media-wise, she's obviously very, very good, very, very talented, and on a boat as well. You know,
She looks very comfortable on board just now anyway.
Indeed.
I think we have none other than Pip here live with us in Les Sables d'Olonne. Pip, are you with us? I hope. Pip here's on Medallia and having a great race with Didac Costa. Well, there we go. There's Pip here. Pip, how are you? We don't have sound. We'll come back to her in a moment. She's looking a little bit bedraggled, but hopefully we'll get some sound with her. She's doing such a great race. We can't have Pip just now, but we've certainly seen her. She's going really well just now. Jack, Pip here, you possibly don't know her, but I mean, she's an inspiration having got to the start line, and she's really having a good race with Didac Costa on the older boats.
Yeah, definitely. She's had a pretty tough project, not very well funded, but you know, doing really well. I think the Vendée, it's a race in itself to get to the start line, and you know, her position on the course, she's ahead of a lot of boats that are effectively a lot faster than hers. You know, she's been sailing well and keeping the boat in one piece, and you know, I think she, you know, getting to the start line in a race-winning position, I think, is quite a lot different to probably the way she got to the start line. You know, I imagine she crossed the line super tired, completely wrecked, because you know it was effectively a race in itself just to get to the start line. But you know, I think she's doing really well, and you know, that's the pretty cool thing about this race. You know, there's the guys and girls at the front end of the fleet. You know, big budget projects to win and sail around the world as fast as you can, and you know, there's also we call them adventurer/racers, which, you know, doing it for the passion, for the love and the adventure of sailing around the world, inspiring others to follow or do the same thing, which is pretty cool, I think.
I think the great thing about Pip here was, she, as you say, she was struggling, and then she had a kind of white knight sponsor came along, somebody who was inspired by the Vendée Globe, a follower of the Vendée Globe in the US, who read about her situation on the Vendée Globe website, followed her a little bit on the media, and then just made an approach pretty much out of the blue, and the relationship is absolutely flourishing. Let's have a look at the weather situation just now as we try and reconnect with Pip. And this is the weather as of this morning. So first of all, looking at the chart for this morning, this is 9 o'clock this morning, And looking first of all at the race leader, Charlie Dallin. Now he's out in front on the top corner of this low pressure system. He's pretty much in a westerly breeze at the moment. He's had quite tough conditions earlier on. He was saying yesterday, but today things a little bit smoother in 20-25 knots of westerly breeze. I say at the front of the front. So things not so bad for him. Meantime, back here, Louis Burton. Now he's come up from the south, right close to the exclusion zone, and he's in the worst of the conditions. He's probably got 30 to 35 knots. Quite confused seas, and he's finding it much tougher than the boats to their north, who are at the back of the front here, and in relatively stable conditions. Well, quite gusty, but certainly. Not too strong in terms of wind. This is a quick look again at the Agulhas current. Well, you see Buro Valley is well south of the current and the strong overfalls and the big waves. And just looking at the route here of these boats here, having to chop through it, and they'll come up and jibe. It's a relatively narrow race course now because of the ice exclusion zone. It's about 550 miles all the way up between the exclusion zone and the south of South Africa. So next thing is the animation. And if I can just quickly stop it here, hopefully, or we can certainly move it a little bit. Just watching Apivia here. Now the one to watch, other than this group here, which is of a relatively straight passage at the back of the low, and then they're swallowed up by the high. So they actually end up with quite good conditions. The one to watch here is Armel Tripon, who's just in perfect conditions at the back of this high pressure, and he's just running the ice skate all the way along, and he's got perfect conditions, and he should be able to catch up some miles at last on the Sam Manward de Scow. Great conditions for him, and then just starting to jibe as the high pressure catches him. But he really does have a dream sequence for the next few days once he gets into that high pressure system. But meantime, slightly difficult conditions for the leaders, but great sequence for Armel Tripon. So the time coming for Armel Tripon on that Sam Manward skiff. Indeed, I think he's the quickest in the fleet just now, or certainly in the speed gun, up to 30 minutes before the 12 o'clock standings. He was doing 20.6 knots, and he has the highest 24-hour run at 496 miles over the last 24 hours up till midday. So things going slightly better now for Armel Tripon. And I think we do have Pip Pera hopefully on board Medallia. Pip, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
How's it going?
It's good. It's a bit wet and wild. I mean, this is, it's been a challenging 24 hours. This is my first sort of South Atlantic low pressure system. So I've been sailing quite hard to try and stay ahead of the front, and the front just literally caught up with me this morning. So I've been doing my reefing exercises on deck and getting really, really wet. But yeah, I mean, Medallia is going like a freight train at the moment. It's great.
Medallia is looking after you then?
Oh, it really is. I mean, last night I was very anxious. I think, not to be shaken up by what happened to PRB would be unusual, I think, and so last night, was the first sort of hard sailing that I've done down here, and all through the night I struggled with sleep and I was very anxious. But, I went on deck this morning and the boat is strong and it's sorted, and I feel like we're doing the right thing. So, I'm feeling a lot better about life today.
Indeed. And what's on the menu weather-wise then? You say the front has just caught up with you.
Yeah, literally, I'm just on the edge of it, and so it's going to get a little bit squally this afternoon, and then once it's passed, the wind is going to back a bit, and but I think we've got another solid 24 hours of good conditions, 20 knots, a little bit more, from the west, 25 maybe. So I think, at least another 24 hours of really great sailing.
And meantime, you're all the time, you're close with Didac.
I know, it's fantastic. It's really fantastic. It's so good to have him there. He's got so much experience and having a boat the same age, and so it's kind of a good verification for me that I'm doing something right, and it's nice to be in that much contact with someone. So yeah, it's fantastic. And actually, do you know what? I've done my first ever 400 plus 24-mile run. I've never done one before in my life, so that is quite epic.
How did you celebrate?
I'm still doing it. Cold porridge, actually.
Good, that's fantastic, Pip. Anyway, lovely to speak with you, and you have a good ride down there.
Thanks, Andy. Bye.
So that's Pip here enjoying the Southern Ocean conditions, the roaring 40s on board Medallia. Let's go back to Jack Bouttell. And Jack, what are your own plans? You have this huge spectrum of racers, from the very, very most modern, cutting-edge IMOCAs back to the 23-year-old boats. What's your own plans?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's to be on the start line in 2024. I think for this race, I was as close as you could be to being there, but unfortunately it didn't work out. After I finished the Volvo Ocean Race in 2018, I actually managed to purchase an IMOCA, the Spirit of Canada, which is the sister ship of Mike Golding's Air Cover, so 2007 IMOCA, 2006. And a few months later, we actually found a sponsor, and we had a sponsor signed up, and everything was looking pretty beautiful. And then, unfortunately, the sponsor pulled out for whatever reason, and basically never managed to find funding again or get the project off the ground. So had to put it to the side and sell the boat and look forward to another day. It's I think to try and make these projects happen, it's pretty difficult. There's no correct or wrong way of doing it. I think some people, right place, right time, and it just all seems to click and happen pretty quickly. And other people, like Pip, fight and do everything they can for it. And I think you just, got to do what you can. And I think mentally it takes a big toll, or for me anyway, when that project didn't work out. And it's taken a while to get over it and sort of get the motivation back, I guess, more than anything, to go and get back on it and do sponsorship hunting and try and get a boat and get back into it. It's a pretty big undertaking, just to get that on the go, basically.
Indeed, but it's good to see that sailors like Pip make it, and there's plenty of guys and girls out there who have started from very limited beginnings and get across the start line. And a sailor you know very well is Charlie Dallin. Charlie's out in front. We caught up with Charlie on board Apivia earlier on today, and he's talking about life in the Indian Ocean.
I'm good. Enjoying a bit of relief in wind conditions. Yeah, it's sunny today on Apivia. Yeah, I'm recovering from the first storm I got yesterday. It went fairly well. The sea state was not as big as I thought it was going to be. The wind was as strong as I believed it was going to be. So I got gusts were nearly the biggest gust I got were close to 50 knots. That was a bit very squally conditions, lots of squalls. So the wind was really unstable in strength and direction. All in all, it went fairly well. It's interesting because I'm discovering something I never had to do before. Is sometimes I have to untune the boat to slow the boat down. I feel like 50% of the time I'm trying to trim the sails and falls and keel and everything to go faster, and 50% of the time I feel like I'm trying to detune everything, slow the boat down. Like often I found myself looking for the brake pedal, because the sea state in the Indian Ocean is really bad, and that's really what's like limiting my speed. And yeah, sometimes the boat goes, like accelerate in a surf, and you go up to 28, 30 knots, and you don't know how it's going to end. And so often I'm trying to so it's a really weird way to think, because I say, okay, I've got this wind strength, I've got this wind angle, I've got this sails up. Okay, so the right settings are this and that, and this for everything, and then say, okay, so if I change this setting to that should slow the boat down, and this setting to that should slow a bit more. So it's really weird, I never had to do that before in my racing career, trying to untune a boat to slow it down.
So what are your options? What do you do generally?
Well, you can adjust the settings on the foils, on the keel angle. That's two effective way to slow the play as well with my water ballast. Feeding and feeding. Also, I can slightly adjust my sail trimming as well to slow a bit the boat. So I've got this array of tools that I normally use towards going faster, and I have to find I have to use them against the performance of the boat, which is really weird.
And meantime, Charlie, you're routing the guys behind. You're watching them all the time and seeing what their options are?
Not at all. I've stopped doing this because I felt like the routing were favoring them. So I voluntarily don't take the grip files all the way to Thomas, so that I cannot do that and cannot check what he's going to do and what he's going to have in conditions. Because there is not much point anyway, because we've got different wind direction, different wing strengths. The weather systems are hitting us with nearly like a bit more than 12-hour difference. So there's no much point in working on what they're going to do. So I try to focus on my trajectory, on my race. And we'll see how it turns out.
So that's Charlie Dillon. Jack Bouttell, it's a little bit like taking a Formula One car down a bumpy road, then, isn't it, for Charlie just now in the Indian Ocean?
Yeah, the Southern Ocean's a pretty full-on place to be, and I think, for example, if you look at the grid files and the wind files that give the wind speed for the Southern Ocean, Indian, and Pacific, if it says 30 knots, in the UK or France, 30 knots will sort of probably be more on the top end of the average wind speed. I'd say in the Southern Ocean, if it says 30 knots, that's the least you'll have at that point in time. I think the boats are getting faster and faster, which is amazing. But they're also a lot more complex. There's a lot more going on. There's a lot more things that you have to manage. And yeah, like you say, it's taking a Formula One car on a rally track and managing all that, and there's a lot of things to do. And I think the hard thing with the newer boats with the bigger foils, I think with the sort of the first generation of foils, that you could pull the foils into the boat, and effectively the foils wouldn't really be in the water anymore. So you could be sort of effectively a non-foiling boat, which was pretty advantageous in the south in big conditions. But a lot of the newer boats, even with the foils fully pull the boat, when the boat heels over, you're still going to have a lot of the foil in the water. So I think, like Charlie was saying, it's half your time you're spending, you're actually trying to slow the boat down, which is a very difficult thing to do. And I think you'll end up with a lot of time with a lot of random boat speeds, because you'll have times where the foil won't be in the water at all, and you'll be quite slow, and then you'll heel over, the foil will go in the water, it'll give you a riding moment, and you'll take off at 30 knots, sort of like what he said. And that's going to be a pretty hard thing to manage.
That seems to be the problem for Charlie just now and some of the other more modern foilers. But I'm sure we'll see the best of them as yet to come. Jack, so grateful to you for joining us in the programme. Join us again over the course of the Vendée Globe. And that, unfortunately, is all the time we've got today. Join us tomorrow. Our guest will be Marcus Hutchison. Any questions, as ever, post them on our social media channels on Facebook, Twitter, and indeed on Instagram. Join us again tomorrow.